Welcome back to the Morning Blend. Well, could you use a little help or coaching when it comes to talking to your child's teachers?
Today, we've got that coach, and she'll share her best suggestions for doing just that and tell us the 4 times you should never try to have a conversation with a teacher. Please welcome Judy Cohen. She's an academic coach, a former teacher, and author. Good to have you here, Judy.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to see you.
So many questions parents have about this because, you know, when you have an issue, it probably feels very urgent. So you want to sort of do something about it right away, but there's a lot of times you shouldn't do something, and there's times you should, right?
Well, and there's this huge emotional piece of this because you're talking about your child.
Your child.
But the 2 things you have to remember before we even get going here. Number 1, be transparent with the teacher. If you know your child is having difficulties, or you're coming from a school system very unlike where you're living, be transparent about it. You wouldn't walk into a doctor's office and say to him, "Hey, I'm sick, what's wrong with me?"
Yes,
Be honest.
Yeah.
Be honest about it. And let that teacher know those strategies that work. And really, you need to be open and just honest with that teacher and get problems early. You know, one dandelion's really pretty, but a whole lawn full of dandelions, not so much. So jump on it right away.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
One of the things you say before you communicate with a teacher, remember this acronym, and it's GAFF. What does it stand for? G-A-F-F.
GAFF is get all facts first. Now here's where the fun begins, because you need to communicate with the teacher with your information. Education is a business. You walk in with your data, your information, and here's where it all begins. You start questioning your child. When did you know you had that test scheduled? Is it written in your assignment notebook? And if it's not, where is it? Did you write down every night how to study for it? Lots of school systems are using online homework, Chromebooks, whatever you call it. I'm old school. I write things down, and that's what I tell my students. You need to write it down. Did you complete a study guide? Did you finish the study guide? Did you finish it correctly? How many times did you talk to the teacher? Did you look at the test before you handed it in? Did you complete the test? And here's a biggie. Many times kids have tests where there's 2 or 3 questions in one, and the word they love, explain. And they don't know that word exists, so they don't, and they lose points. Here's where you're going to find out what your child knows and how well your child's prepared. So if you get this response, oh,
So that's bad?
That's bad, that's bad. That's going.
We've all heard that as parents. And I have to say, almost all the things you say here parents should do or should not do, I've done pretty much every single one of them. So it's a tough lesson to learn because you're very emotional about your child. And I've cried in more than one teacher conference just because it's like you care so much, you know?
Absolutely. And so does the teacher, though. Let's get this straight. No one is out there to make life miserable for your student. Absolutely not. But you're also going to teach your child how to be more aware of what's going on in the classroom if you're going to keep asking them these questions.
Well, and responsible and accountable. It sounds like, I mean, because a lot of times, you know, I'm sure there's, you know, as a parent, you could come in and wonder, well, the teacher's not engaging my child enough, or they're not helping them enough, or they're not being clear, or whatever it may be. But this puts it back on your child to be responsible and accountable for themselves.
And you can do this with social problems as well.
Okay. No, see, I'm glad you brought this up because I do always ask this question, and I think it's as important very often as academics. And it is okay to talk to your teacher about their social interaction.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times they'll have insight that you don't because they spend those different hours all day long with your child. And things like, do you see them as a leader or follower, I think are good questions. Who do they seem to associate with in the class? But you also say things like, you know, have them describe a situation if they bring up a problem.
Absolutely.
Or be specific.
Kids are writing book reports all the time. They talk about character setting, problems, conflicts, resolutions. Okay, now tell me, who was involved in this? What were the characters? Where did it take place? What was your conflict? How did you resolve this? So when you go in and talk to the teacher, you have all of this information. Often, you might learn a whole lot more than if you just called the teacher and said, you know, he can't get along with Johnny. Why are you making him sit next to him?
Right.
Let's get some information under our belts first before you communicate to a teacher. And it's how you communicate as well. Please walk in with a positive attitude. Let's assume the best. Take that anger and frustration out of it. I know that's hard because you're talking about the most important thing in your life right now, your children. But you must. So when you do contact a teacher, you send that email out.
Yeah, you suggest using email.
The first contact would be an email, and it's not a novel. do not state the problem in this email, because
that's not the book report.
This is not the book report. This is no, not the short story, not the novel. You're going to send an email and state, I'd like to speak with you, and be specific, because here's where your data comes in. I'd like to talk about the last science test that Maggie took.
Okay.
And when can we meet conveniently and agreeably? You do not meet with teachers when they walk in the morning, the kids are coming in. You don't meet with them at recess or lunch or when the pickup time is.
So say those 4 again. Those are the 4 times you do not expect to talk to a teacher.
No mornings. Enough goes on in the mornings, and sometimes those teachers are meeting with kids before school. Not at recess time, not at their lunch time, and not when you're picking your kids up.
I would bet that's when a lot of parents try
Oh,
to
yeah.
corner them.
The other thing is they see, they might be working in the library, and they see the teacher in the hallway. Oh, can I talk to you? No. And please don't come unannounced into a classroom and expect for a teacher to drop everything and speak with you. This is an important meeting. Remember, we're talking about your child.
Right.
So if
Make
that
an
teacher
appointment.
doesn't get back to you in a reasonable time period, you send another email, you follow up with a phone call to the classroom or to the school. Please don't call cell numbers of teachers or text them. I mean, we all know when we get a call on our cell phone and we're in the middle of something, we always think the worst.
So when do you stop trying to connect with the teacher if you don't hear and go to an administrator?
That's number 3.
Third.
The third step. If you still don't hear back from a teacher, and 9 times out of 10 you've already heard, but if there are some that are slow, and you know, some things happen in schools too. Servers go down, computers go down, whatever. Another email to the teacher with the administrator, could be a principal, could be a social worker, whoever is on, and a phone call to the school, to the administrator. I guarantee you by that time you've come up with a time you're going to meet.
So that's a
Great
third
advice,
attempt.
Judy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really important. You want to come in with a positive attitude.
Yes.
You want the teacher to be in a positive mode also. And so not talking to them and being respectful of their time during certain times of the day is really important. People can get a hold of you and find out more about your tutoring services if they go to your website. It's lakesideeducationalservices.com. There's a phone number there also for you to contact Judy. Great to see you as always.
It's great to be here.
Thanks for
Thank you.
your help.
Great.